Hi, everybody. This is Samara Grace Daniels. Welcome to 2/2/2020. It's an amazing day and a day that I think, I don't know if I ever thought I'd get here, 2/2/2/2/2, whatever. But anyway, I'm still here in Hawaii enjoying the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ocean and all of the pleasures that are here. And Mother Mary is going to have a very special message for us today about how do we grow into, hi Barbara, how do we grow into a different world than the world we're currently seeing? How do we do that? And I think there's been, as some people say, so much divisiveness out there and so many challenging things that we kind of wonder, well, you know, how can it get better? How can I, as a person, help to contribute to something different? And in the last couple of weeks, Mother Mary's been talking to me about what she's calling the feminine face of God. And that's a term that, you know, each of us can interpret or come to in our own way. But what I understood her to mean, and of course I'll let her speak directly in just a moment, is that what we've been living for a very, very long time is sort of a patriarchal way of being, a masculine energy. And I don't mean male men energy. I love my men. I mean the energy of power over, the energy of domination, the energy of divide and conquer. If you can think about our civilization from the beginning of time, it was really about, I better conquer you or you're going to be coming after me. There was a physical threat of violence going on in the early days that really still continues in many parts of the world. And as a result of that, the ability to dominate, the ability to hold power over others was seen as what made somebody indomitable, and in some cases even great, feared. And that's been going on for a very, very long time. And fast forward to the last decade or so, we've had a lot of changes in terms of women speaking up and the feminine energy coming in. But what's the feminine face of God? So I was asking her about that, and I know she'll speak in just a moment, but I want you to just kind of feel into, when you were growing up and somebody talked about God, did you imagine this, you know, long white hair, bearded guy up in the sky, you know, dispensing justice to everyone? I don't know. I think I kind of did for a while. And then after a while, I became more interested in other religions and other ways of seeing things. And ultimately, I came to feel like God is love, and love exists as we choose to bring it forth. And so there isn't a personage out there ruling over us. And yet for many people, that's still true. They still see God sort of keeping score on how you're living your life and meting out either punishment or reward. I think that's about to change. And so it's my joy to bring you directly messages from Mother Mary. My website is samaragrace.com. And my Facebook page, if you want to go over there and look at some of the previous videos, is Mother Mary Messages with Samara. So you can find some more things there. So I've been channeling Mother Mary since about 22 years now. Oh, that's right, 22, okay. And she always has something interesting to say about love. So without further ado, let's see what she has to say today. Well, hello to all of my beloveds, both here on the call and wherever you happen to be. I think the most important thing about two is to realize in between are the zeros. 02, 02, 20, 20. Why is that relevant? You've been living in a world in which me, the one, was either the ruled or the ruler. And so it became really a sense of one against one against many. And it became really quite challenging to feel like, well, how can I be a person? How can I be who I'm meant to be and be in this world, neither the ruler nor the ruled? And the simple answer is, whenever two or more are gathered, there am I. So what does that mean? It means that as you find others in your world that share that common ground of love, that are not trying to dominate you and you are not trying to dominate them, what happens in that moment is there's actually three of you. So there's you, there's the other person, and there's the connection to spirit. And you can call that God or Gaia or whatever, Buddha, whatever makes sense to you. So it's important today to begin to think about and feel into the people in your life that you love to be with, because they are not trying to dominate you and you are not trying to dominate them. You are therefore in this connection, in this beautiful connection where there's 0 and 2. 0 meaning the oneness, if you think of 0 as the O in one, oneness. So this equation of finding others that are loving is essential in these coming times, because the divine feminine cannot exist without the benevolent masculine. The divine feminine cannot exist without the benevolent masculine. And Richard's nodding, he knows what I'm talking about. So what I mean is, you've seen the divine feminine, the beautiful, inspirational, creative, nurturing, loving space that in general women can create, although masculine and feminine are in both in every sort of person. So what happens though is they begin to create, and then if the old masculine is still operating on dominate or be dominated, what they will do is come and try to squash or at least minimize what the beautiful divine feminine wants to create. So, for instance, if you imagine for a moment a group of both the benevolent masculine and the divine feminine in a room, thinking about what could we do about hunger in our community? Never mind the world, we'll get there at some point. What could we do about hunger in our community? The divine feminine will have 20 ideas within 15 minutes. They will. Let's go to the restaurants, let's take the excess food, let's call this one, let's get the grocers to donate, let's have the Girl Scouts deliver it. They'll just come up with all these wonderful, wonderful ideas. But without the benevolent masculine, and what I mean by that is the structures and the infrastructure to get it done, the feminine is much more airy and will exhaust herself. And you've seen this again and again and again. So the benevolent masculine working with the divine feminine says, okay, if we're going to do that, we need a dedicated van to drive from this place to this place to this place, collecting the food, and then we need that dedicated van to go over here. Then we need some volunteers on Tuesdays and Thursdays and all of that. And so the structure begins to be not only created, but supported. The most wonderful thing about the benevolent masculine is that all they really want to do is love and support the divine feminine. That's all they want to do. That's all they want to do. Now, again, we can't always divide it into men and women, although in general that could be seen to be fairly accurate at this moment in time. But there are amazing men that you all know, amazing, wonderful men that are working in this world to support these ideas of the divine feminine. And these ideas are, how do we include rather than exclude? How do we empower rather than dominate? How do we heal rather than push away? How do we include those that at the moment are feeling like they're on the fringe? And so again, it's the importance of two, because if you're by yourself and you have these wonderful ideas and you sort of run around to all the feminine friends, they'll be like, oh, that's great, that's great. Yeah, let me know how you're doing with it. Yeah, that's great, that's great, that's great. Because what's wanting now to come into being is not only the inspiration of the divine feminine and the desire to have a world that is worth having, but it is absolutely mandatory to invite the benevolent masculine. And by benevolent, I want to be very clear. What I mean by that is heart-centered and open-minded. That's what I mean. And so the benevolent masculine listens to the divine feminine and says, oh, okay, let me make a list of what we need. Let me make inquiries into how that could happen. And then it begins to build and go from there. Now, many of you have already inside of you both the awakened masculine or the benevolent masculine and the inspirational divine feminine. You have it within you. However, this is the time of two or more. So even if you've got the ideas and you're familiar with what the infrastructure could be, it's very, very challenging and difficult to go it alone. And so again, it's important to come together with other open-minded, like-minded, open-hearted people to say, here's my idea. Here's some of the things that we would need in order to get that done. Is this something that you feel also, that you feel called to be involved in? Because there's so many projects, not everyone can do everything. One of the ways to look at this and understand what I'm talking about is some of the wonderful things that have happened online with GoFundMe. So someone has an inspiration or an idea or even a need. And we know there's a lot of medical situations that are put on there, but there's also ideas. And then people say, oh, I can support that. I can support that. I can support that. And it begins to build. So you have to not only have the idea, this infrastructure that I'm talking about are the ways and means that a group of people using really small amounts of energy, when you think about it, can have a large effect. So what we're doing beginning today really is talking about how to not only awaken and birth the divine feminine in each person, male or female, but also how to investigate, where's my benevolent masculine? Where's my empowering masculine within me? Now, here's where it gets interesting. A lot of the people that come to Samara and I are disheartened, disheartened by what's going on in the world. And I tell them, I understand. Sometimes it's not a pretty picture out there. But if you focus your vision on what is already there, how can you dream of what has not yet been? So I'm not saying to ignore what's happening. You look at what's happening, and then you have to go inside and bring your allies in, your other wonderful, open-minded, open-hearted friends, and say, I'm so concerned about children not having enough food in our community. Now, the reason I say in our community rather than in the world is that it's also vitally important to begin to feel that you are having an effect. And sometimes many of you are very generous. You send money to Red Cross and overseas and all of that. And I'm certainly not trying to discourage that. But imagine driving down the street and bringing, whether it's Meals on Wheels or meals in backpacks or whatever it happens to be, or bringing the groceries to someone, or stopping at someone's home with a turkey and all the fixings, whatever it happens to be that is right for you. You're establishing what I'm calling the two. You're going to see me make the peace sign, which is the two, right? Again and again. And what I mean is that when you not only dream of something, you involve yourself and create from that perspective. And then you get to see and watch the joy or gratitude or relief of the person that is receiving what you've chosen to do. You're both uplifted and you both become one, the zero, the one. In that moment, there isn't a giver and a receiver. There's just two people doing what they're meant to do. And so we're living in this time of changing from the singular one, me, what's in it for me, how much money can I make, what's in it for me, what's in it for me. That's the old domination that always leaves somebody hungry, who ultimately will rebel against the desire that you had to enslave them. And so the wars go on and on and on and on. So this is a year to focus on two. Joining within yourself, the masculine and the feminine, meaning that which inspires you and the doing that goes along with that which inspires you and the actions that go along with that, as well as having at least one lovely friend in your life, and hopefully many, many more, where you can share your truth and share your ideas and they can love and support you. So let's take a look outside and see what's happening in the world for just a moment. I'm sure that you've noticed that in other countries, as well as America, people are unhappy and rebelling against the governance that has essentially promised to do good by them while they're putting all the money in their own pockets. And it's going to have the karmic result that you could expect, which is that people will say enough is enough and rebel against that. But now what you have is this churning of energies. I'm right, you're right, I'm right, you're right, I'm going to win, you're going to win. And it's a waste of energy in so many ways. So how do you go above that? How do you go above that? I want you to keep asking yourself, whatever you see going on in the world, how do I go above that and bring down a solution? Bring it down from your higher self, bring it down from the angels, bring it down from your guides, bring it down from your greatest visions. Because that solution will not be in the old paradigm of one against the other. One. That solution will be in the oneness. Now, if you're concerned about another country, if you're concerned about people, this is my suggestion, is to just sit quietly with another friend if you can and say, I'm concerned about, fill in the blank. Let's ask in this meditation of a few minutes that we're going to do, to be shown a vision of a viable remedy. I promise you, there are many in the realms of light wanting to give you these visions. Many of you already get them. The next part that's more challenging is, how do I implement this vision? That too will come to you as you expand into your own benevolent masculine and invite more and more people that have that balance of both. Samara was watching something on Facebook the other day that was so compelling. A 6-year-old found out that his classmates in first grade, many of them didn't have lunch money. He was 6 years old. He said, "Mommy, I want to open a lemonade stand and take the money and give it to the cafeteria so the children in my class can have lunch." So you see, this little 6-year-old boy saw something, had a vision of what can I do at 6 years old. And of course, because he put a little sign out of what he was doing, people gave more than whatever the lemonade would have been, which is appropriate. But he paid off his classmates' lunch deficit. So small things might seem very minor, but when those become really the bread and butter that we're all sharing with each other. You know, I saw that story with Samara and she told several friends and whatever, liked it on Facebook and sent it out and everything. That's also part of this 2 by 2. Watching and noticing what's already happening that is positive and life affirming and changing the world, and sort of breathing that in, having that for lunch, saying, wow, wow, wow. And encouraging any of the people or children in your community that have ideas like this, being their sponsor, being their mentor, saying, of course you can. Do you need some cups for your lemonade? You know, whatever. This is really what's going to shift everything in the world. If you can begin to realize, I can't solve the challenges of today from the same construct and the same mindset that created them. Einstein told you that a long, long time ago. So I'm not saying ignore the challenges of the world. I'm saying look at what is in your backyard, your neighborhood, and your heart, and say, okay, I'm going to get a couple of friends over. We're going to meditate on what could we do about that. And then when we get the vision, when we get the understanding, when we get the inspiration, we do it. We open the lemonade stand or whatever comes to you. The equation of power is roughly equal to what you're all seeing on the news every once in a while about how, I don't know, I'm sure I have these numbers wrong. 1% of the people own 90% of the world's wealth, you know, something like that, right? I mean, it's crazy, right? But when you think about that, what does that mean? It means that 90% of the people feel bereft, abandoned, left out, angry, resentful, etc. So how do you help people feel wealthy? You give them back their power. You give them back their power to implement change in their own lives. You give them back the power to implement change in their own lives. And you do that by encouraging them. Imagine if the mother or father of this little boy had said, oh no, don't do that. But instead, they helped him build a little stand and a sign and told their friends and neighbors and watched with pride as their little 6-year-old boy changed the lives of his classmates and his own. So this time that we're in, just to leave it one more time, it's the time of 2. It's the time of 2. And what that means is you need the partnership in yourself of your own masculine and feminine, the part that is inspired, and the part that takes action, the part that has the vision of inclusion, and the action that helps for that to occur. It's also the time of two to gather with other people, at least one other person, more is even better, and say, would you meditate with me on the best remedy for this situation, whatever that happens to be? And if they're in their heart, as they should be, they will say, of course. And then you go from there. Many of you have studied this dimensional reality, 3D, 4D, 5D, and all the way up. Well, what I'll just briefly say about this is that in 3D, you have all the power struggles. You have people lying and cheating and stealing and they're all doing that, absolutely. So the power that's required to change that doesn't come from 3D. Because they've already sucked that power into, again, I'll just say the 1%. And I don't say it in a way to be mean to them. They have done what has worked for them. And people do what works for them until it doesn't. I'll say that one more time. People do what works for them until it doesn't. And so what I'm inviting you to do is realize the power is in the fifth dimension, meaning your higher self, your connection with God, your true divine feminine and empowered masculine. That's where it is. The visions that you get, the connection that you have with God, that's where the power is. And then to bring it into yourself and align it with what you know to be true for you and what's happy for you, what's joyous for you, what feels, it's your mana, it's how you breathe, it's how you live. Now what you're doing is you're bringing the fifth dimension through the fourth dimension of possibility. The fourth dimension is like, oh, we could do this or we could do that, but let's just legalize marijuana so everyone will be stoned and not do anything. That's my opinion. But anyway, so the fourth dimension carries ideas and inspiration as well, but it has no form yet. So when you go all the way to the fifth, it's like it's in a little pyramid of itself, you know, like, oh, we could do that. That little boy with the lemonade stand got a little pyramid of, oh, I could do that. Okay, sure, bang. So there was no resistance or reluctance or confusion or disparity. It was like, boom, here you go. And that's what the fifth dimension can do. The ideas exist along with the materials that you would need. Now the fourth has a lot of possibilities and confusion, and the 3D is where the battleground still lies. So you become sort of an island of coherence in the sea of chaos. An island of coherence in the sea of chaos. And so while everybody's doing whatever they're doing, you are aligned with your higher self, with divine feminine and divine masculine in you. You're inviting inspiration and vision along with the means or the modality to be able to put that vision into the world. And with that strength, it's like the third dimension can't stop you because it carries so much power when you have that kind of inspiration and idea. Otherwise, if you come into the third dimension as the divine feminine without the bolstering of the benevolent masculine, you already have seen what happens. Too many of our beautiful, beautiful women of amazing strength and power have had to buffet themselves through all sorts of difficulties. However, when you align with that highest truth, you will not be buffeted by the storm. You will be able to sail right through it. So my prayer is that for each of you, you just take this information and realize, I don't have to do it alone. In fact, that doesn't work anymore. I do have inspiration of my divine feminine in each person. I do have the strength of the benevolent masculine in me. All that's been missing really is the understanding that now my humanity, what I see wrong in the world, cannot alone overcome what humanity has created. I need my divinity. I need my divinity, my divine connection, my divine inspiration. And when I have that, now I can make my way back into 3D, strengthened with that template, strengthened with that vision, and knowing that yes, I can. Yes, I can. Whether it's creating a lemonade stand or a well in Africa or whatever you would like to do. But recognize, if you start too early, if you say, oh, that's kind of a nice idea, let me run it by my colleagues at the bar. They, and again, I'm using an analogy, bars are fine. But if you bring that beautiful idea into the toxicity of the old paradigm, it will be poisoned and stained by that old paradigm. So what we want is your clarity, your excitement, and that fusion of the divine masculine and divine feminine that says, I have this wonderful idea and I have the means to do it. It feels right to me in my heart. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's move ahead with what we want to do. This is the year. I promise you, this is the year, because the old power structures, they are crumbling in certain cases, but then what happens is they want to tighten their grip, right? They want to tighten their grip. So it's very, very vital to show up, suit up, put on your highest garb, meaning your heavenly halo, your divine light, and say, nothing will stop me because I have the light of God leading me. And again, I'm going to be very, very cautious about this. The light of God always is led by the divine feminine that includes, that believes in community and oneness, uplifting, not containing people. So your ideas will always be in that field of love and intentionality, that this can benefit all. And then you are unstoppable, unstoppable. So for today, I will be signing off from the recording in just a moment. But I want to just end the recording by saying, it's so important to realize that all of us in the other realms are here to help you. But we are no longer in the physical world. So without your hands and your heart and your lemonade stands, the world will not change. We hear your prayers and we are here, but it really is now in your hands what will happen. Will the voices of fear and domination continue? Or will you say enough is enough, and I have ideas that I've been given that can nurture and awaken and love and feed and heal humanity? I'm voting for door number 2. Much love, darlings. Much love. Namaste.